Welcome to the Fierce and Fit Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Clarice Yao, a holistic health coach dedicated to helping women over 40 achieve their fittest, fiercest selves. Each week, we'll dive deep into the unique challenges of menopause, including belly fat, weight gain, muscle building, hormonal imbalances, and more. These episodes are recorded live from my free Facebook group, Fierce Women Sculpting Powerful Bodies and Champion Mindsets. Be sure to check the link in the show notes to join our incredible community and access free content, challenges, and resources designed just for you. We're going to get started. So this is live 217. And it is the live about cravings, cortisol, and hormonal belly. Okay. Now, I usually do say this, and it is still welcome to the Fierce Women community where we sculpt powerful bodies and champion mindsets. However, we do have a change, and I know some of you on here already know that, but I would like to make obviously a public announcement so that people who do watch this live, who are going to plug in later, they understand. So we are transitioning out of Facebook because we unfortunately are locked out. So Shona can't access it, I can't access it. So as much as we want to serve you and all of the 19,000 people, we have to find another way. So that is why we have transitioned to Instagram. So if you have not followed my Instagram profile yet, please make sure you do. Oshona, if you don't mind dropping my Instagram link below for them to follow, that would be amazing. And at the very end, I will drop some of the other links to stay connected with us. However, just so you guys know, our group, our Fierce Women community group is still running, just that I'm not able to see it, and Oshone is not able to see it, but beautiful Debbie on here, as well as May in our team, is monitoring in there for the bikini challenge. And it's still going to run, and we still want that community there. So if you are in that community, what that's going to give you is still access to 216 lives that is in the group. So for example, today, if I talk about certain topics and say, if you want to be tagged on a live, let us know. That is available in the group, as well as we have a lot of free resources sitting in the group. So it's not that the group is gone, it's just that where we are posting right now is on Instagram because we cannot get access to it, okay? But we are committed to serving you. This is obviously our highest concern, is how can we continue to serve all of you and get you the information. So like I said, Oshone will drop my Instagram link. Make sure you follow me on there as we post news, resources, free tips, as well as videos, and then our live training on Instagram now, okay? So thank you everyone for your care, concern. I know some people even sent messages and was like, you're going to get through this. And, I really appreciate everyone's concern. And, at the same moment, I always tell everybody that I built this company over COVID when the world shut down. So one platform shutting down is not going to stop us. We're going to still be here to serve you. And if you know of other people who are trying to follow me or on Facebook, they can't find me, please help direct them to Instagram. And then our lives will now be on Zoom. Okay. So today's live training is cravings, cortisol, and that hormonal belly. So we're going to talk about 3 kinds of hormones, okay, that will help you understand what's going on and maybe which hormone you struggle with. Okay, so there is one of the hormone patterns. We're going to talk about 3 hormone patterns. One of the hormone patterns is cravings. So cravings have a big indication about your blood sugar levels, and it means that your hunger hormone signals are disrupted. I am going to dive deeper once I go through each of these 3 points, okay, on each one. So it means your blood sugar is unstable and your hormone hungers are disrupted. The second pattern we will talk about is cortisol. Cortisol is obviously your stress hormone, and most menopausal women struggle with stress overload and adrenal fatigue. Okay, so that's the second hormone pattern we're going to talk about. And the third hormone pattern we're going to talk about is hormonal belly, which has to do with estrogen and progesterone imbalance and insulin resistance. This is kind of the cause of hormonal belly. Okay, estrogen, progesterone imbalance, and insulin resistance. So those are the 3 types of hormone patterns we're going to discuss. The first one we're going to talk about in cravings is going to be a big section, okay? So we're going to spend probably half an hour on this. So we're going to dive into first the cravings section. Now, before I start, I want people to put in the comments section how many of you struggle with cravings. I want you to put it below and maybe what you crave. Put it in your comments in the chat box. What do you crave? Sugary, salty, fatty? Like what are you craving? Or Oreo cookies, ice cream? Like put it below what you might be craving. Put it in the chat box below. Because, well, first of all, in one of my lives, a previous live I did on cravings, I had mentioned the type of craving you crave tells me a lot about your body. Okay. In this live, I'm not going to go into super deep detail about that, but maybe we can give you some insight on this later. So let's actually talk about the hormones at play for your cravings. Okay. So the first hormone at play is insulin. So this hormone is your blood sugar gatekeeper. Okay, when you eat carbs, your insulin rises to help move that sugar into your cells. So, but when you're constantly spiking your insulin, okay, like eating lots of processed foods, like high stress, like eating inflammatory markers, your body becomes resistant to insulin. When I say this, because some people are new here, what I mean is that it cannot uptake the sugar when it becomes insulin resistant. This is a problem because if insulin remains, not insulin, but sugar remains long term in your system, it is very dangerous for your body. It causes hardening of the arteries, and of course, it pushes fat into your belly. So you want insulin sensitivity. You don't want insulin resistant. However, as a menopausal woman, you will struggle with insulin resistance. Why? That is coming later when I talk about estrogen, okay? But you are, as a menopausal woman, going to struggle with insulin resistance. And your body, when it is resistant, insulin resistant, this is what you're going to see. First of all, you are going to see potentially persistent hunger even after eating. So let's just say you ate and then an hour later you're hungry again, or sometimes you're not even hungry, but you want something sweet, or you're still craving something, even though you just ate, right? And then as well, you're going to see more fat storage in your belly with insulin resistant. And as well, like I said, that feeling you need something sweet. So let me ask you guys, how many of you, just with what I said about insulin, have persistent hunger even after eating, or you feel like you need something sweet after you eat, or you just feel like anything you eat goes to your midsection? Which one is you? Put it below. Put it below as an interactive thing. So the second hormone relating to craving, so one was insulin, two is ghrelin. So ghrelin, I always say says grrr. It's when your stomach is hungry. You know, when your stomach goes grrr, that's ghrelin. Okay. This is your hunger stimulating hormone. So think of it as your appetite amplifier. Okay. So it amplifies your hunger. And when it spikes, there's going to cause a whole bunch of problems. But let's talk about why it spikes. Okay. Ready, ladies? Because I talk with a lot of you, even my own clients, about this. It spikes when you skip meals. A lot of women tell me, I'm too busy to eat. I didn't eat all day. Okay. So it spikes when you skip meals. It spikes when you don't sleep well and when your body is in a high stress state. Now, those three things, you could write it down. Your ghrelin will spike when you skip meals, when you don't sleep well, and when your body is in a high stress state. Okay. Now, I want to specifically talk about when your body is in a high stress state. What does that mean? So, I actually have a lot of conversations with my own clients, with, you ladies, about high stress. Okay. And one of the things that I hear is like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of stressed, but I don't feel like I'm stressed. And one thing I want to talk about is that you don't have to feel stressed to have high cortisol. Okay. Because one of the things is that high cortisol is kind of like, what's the best way to describe it? When your body has too much of it, it becomes numb to it. It doesn't mean it's not there, It's just your body is numb to it. So you don't even know you're in high cortisol state. And I have a lot of clients who have big bellies, who have hormonal imbalances, who tell me, but I don't feel stressed. And I said, oh, let me tell you, every other symptom in your body is telling me you're high stress. You don't have to feel it to be stressed. And in fact, some of them actually go get tested for cortisol and they come back and tell me, wow, my cortisol is so high, but I don't feel stressed. So I just want to make sure you guys understand you don't have to feel stressed to have high cortisol. In fact, the worst part of it is that if you don't feel cortisol stress, but yet the symptoms of your body is showing it, like belly fat, like slow metabolism, like not being hungry, like all trouble sleeping, that even worse means your body has now numbed yourself to the cortisol because it's too much. Okay. And one of the clients that I just talked to, she went to the doctor a few months ago. She had adrenal fatigue. This was before she came to me, but she doesn't feel stressed. Yet they found that she had large adrenal fatigue, right? So this is kind of why I want you to make sure you understand that stress is more than just what you feel. Another thing I'll just address about that is stress is beyond just the physical, it's your mental and your emotional state. Your mental emotional state will dictate a lot about your cortisol, your stress, and your ghrelin, which is the topic here, okay? So being mindful of that, because I'll come back to the mindset a little bit later, is really important. Now, another thing with the ghrelin is you're going to spike it and have it really imbalanced and cause cravings when you chronically undereat or you fast too long. So a lot of my clients undereat a lot, they don't eat enough, and they think that fasting is the key. Like I say, there's a lot of controversy on fasting, and I always say this is not that it's wrong. There's a lot of good things about fasting. Yes, the research behind fasting talks about autophagy, meaning during states of fasting, you can create cellular renewal. But remember, there's always pros and cons to each thing, and we have to be careful when we evaluate approaches. If it helps your cellular renewal, yet it spikes your cortisol, yet it dysregulates your insulin, and it causes ghrelin dysregulation, is this actually helping your body? You have to ask yourself this. Okay, so I want you to think about it and just understand that, like, my goal is always to teach you how to think about things, not just tell you what to do. Because the better you understand your own body, the less you're going to feel like, oh, this doctor said this person said this one said this, then Instagram posted this. Which approach is correct? And that's why I'm teaching you how to think about it for your body when you're in menopause. Okay. So for anybody who is here, do any of you struggle with snack attacks, meaning suddenly you feel like you need to snack, or under eating or fasting? So those are indicators for you, if you're listening, that you have ghrelin imbalance, okay? Ghrelin imbalance. Okay, perfect. The third hormone is leptin. We're still talking about cravings. So first was insulin, second was ghrelin, the third is leptin, okay? So leptin tells your brain, I'm full. You know, in women, this leptin becomes dysregulated if there is a number of conditions in your body, like chronic inflammation, low muscle mass, and excess body fat. So leptin, the signal that tells your body is full, will not operate well if some of these things are present. So we're going to dive into leptin resistance. Okay, you can put that down. Yes, there's a lot of science today, so take notes around this. So it's called leptin resistance. Your brain will resist leptin when it's too much, same as cortisol. So when it is like overproducing leptin in its body, you think that it's going to give you the signal that you're full. In fact, it's going to stop responding, and now you cannot respond to leptin that you're full. Okay, so what causes leptin resistance? Okay, we're going to dive into a number of things. The first thing that causes leptin resistance is inflammation. And I always talk about this because if you don't deal with inflammation, you are in for some major problems in your body as you age, as you get older. When you have high inflammation, the inflammation will interfere with a signal in the hypothalamus. Okay, so the chronic inflammation disrupts the signal in your brain. And the hypothalamus is where it regulates your appetite. Okay, so when it disrupts that, it comes from five things here: poor sleep, gut dysbiosis, highly processed foods, emotional stress, and environmental toxins. Okay. So inflammation, like I said, comes from these number of things that causes all of this. Okay. So this is kind of why when I have clients tell me like, oh, I eat clean, I try to eat like vegetables, and they tell me these things, I just want you to listen to what I just said, okay? Chronic inflammation is not a one linear approach. It has a lot of things surrounding why you have inflammation in your body. You have poor sleep, gut dysbiosis, which means gut imbalance, highly processed foods, emotional stress, and environmental toxins, okay? And I want you to put below which one you feel like might be your case with inflammation. Is it poor sleep? Is it gut dysbiosis? Is it highly processed food? Is it emotional stress? This one is super common amongst older women. A lot about their families, about people passing away, about family dynamics, about, I don't know, some sort of breakup. That's a big one: emotional stress and environmental toxins. Now, this is something that I also said earlier, is in order to deal with your inflammation, don't just look for trying to eat right. It's not about just eating right. That is a big thing. I want you to stand back a little bit. It's why I call myself a holistic coach, is you need to look at the whole picture, and you need to try to have someone work with you, or your work in yourself is not just the food, but is your environment contributing to the stress? Can there be things in your environment that you change? So it's the things in your environment that is there causing stress. Are you living? One of my clients actually lived close to a, was a nuclear radiation, some sort of plant. And when she got tested, she had radioactive things in her body. And so sometimes even where you live could be a problem, or some of the busy cities, high pollution, high, those things cause stress in your body. But also, like I said earlier, there's a lot of people who work always on the surface, like, "Ah, I need to eat the right food, tell me the right macros, tell me the protein, tell me what to do for workout." But yet when I personally work with them, and these are to my own clients, I see the problem is in your mindset. The problem is your self-talk. The problem is the self-sabotaging things, or the things you hold on, the things that get you angry or upset or resentment, or things that you've never dealt with. And so one of my biggest things for all of you is to stand back and look at why you have inflammation. There's been a study, and I forget the name of it, but it was like psychology kind of study. And they found the people with the highest rates of disease and chronic inflammatory diseases had the highest trauma rates, emotional dysfunction in their family, and heartbreaks. They are the ones with the highest chronic condition. I want you guys to just think about that and be like, okay, do I need more help holistically? Because it's beyond just the macro, just the surface level stuff. So if you feel like, you know what, it's deeper, when I think about what's going on in my life, it's deeper, I want you to put holistic below, okay? If you recognize that to deal with this, you need to deal more holistically around it, put holistic below. So that is the chronic inflammation. And we're on, about the leptin resistance, what causing the leptin resistance. So chronic inflammation, high body fat causes leptin resistance. So the more fat you have on your body, the more leptin it produces. Okay. So this is the thing. If you're overweight, if you have a lot of belly fat, unfortunately, by default, you're producing more leptin than someone who's leaner or who doesn't have so much fat. And that is why the more weight and extra weight you carry, you cause yourself to become leptin resistant. Okay, so this is why dropping the weight or belly or fat, not just weight, but fat is very important because fat produces fat and fat produces leptin. Okay, so this could be you. Another thing that causes, leptin resistant is frequent overeating or high sugar intake. And this will cause your brain to crave more food, to overstimulate insulin, and cause the leptin resistance again. So if you overeat or eat a lot of high sugar things, this could be why you're getting leptin resistance. And the number 4 is sleep deprivation. I talked about this, but sleep deprivation in terms of leptin is it reduces leptin levels and it increases your ghrelin, making you hungrier. I don't know if you've ever felt that. I definitely have. If you have a poor night of sleep or you haven't had good sleep for a few weeks, your hunger signals are weird. You crave carbs more, you crave fat more. I don't know if any of you guys feel that. So sleep deprivation causes leptin resistance, and estrogen decline causes leptin resistance. Okay, so estrogen this part is kind of very interesting. Okay, obviously, all of you know, as a menopausal woman, you are dropping in estrogen. But I want to help you understand a little bit around why your glucose struggles so much as you age. Okay. So we're going to talk about before you lose your period and after you lose your period. How many of you on here still have your period or have lost your period? Because it represents 2 stages for yourself and your response to glucose. How many of you still have your period and who has lost their period? Put it below. So I'm going to talk about before menopause, what happens with your glucose, and after menopause, what happens to your glucose. So before menopause, when you still have your period, it is during the luteal phase when your progesterone rises. It's kind of the last 10 to 14 days before your period. This hormone, as progesterone rises, it makes you more insulin resistant. Okay, so your cells don't take up glucose as efficiently, blood sugar stays elevated longer, and cravings for carbs and sweets increase to get fuel. So those of you who are still getting your period, that's why they call PMS. Yes, they say, oh, as you're about to get your period, you start wanting more carbs, more fat. And this is because your progesterone starts to rise in relation to estrogen. I don't know if you guys know the science behind it, because it needs to produce the luteal, the release of the egg. So the progesterone is all in there, but that causes you to be more insulin resistant. And during that period is when you crave carbs and fat more. So if you still have your period, if you ever study into it, there is a certain way to also train according to your according to your menstruation cycle. It's another field of study of training according to your menstrual cycle. So for the ones who still have their period, like that's kind of why there's different ways to handle your menstrual period, why you want certain things, why you should train maybe slightly differently through different parts of your menstruation period. Okay, so after menopause, which is most of you here, okay, the thing that's really interesting is that your estrogen now declines permanently. And what that means is that there is no more estrogen, but no more progesterone as well. And estrogen, remember I said before, progesterone, when it rises, it makes you more insulin resistant, right? So estrogen helps protect you to be better at insulin uptake. It's estrogen that helps you with that. But the problem is now your estrogen also drops. So now estrogen not only drops for 10 days or 12 days, estrogen drops permanently. So what this means, unfortunately, ladies, is that because estrogen drops permanently, your insulin resistant is now all year round, unfortunately. So you do not have a protection of your progesterone anymore. You don't have the up and down of estrogen progesterone like you used to, where there was protection, where there was like different phases. When you are in menopause, now it's dropped off completely. So your protection is gone. I said this at the very beginning, that more than likely, if you're on here and you struggle with weight and belly fat, you are insulin resistant. It's not even a question of it. It most likely is the case. So, what does insulin resistance with a decrease of estrogen mean? It means you're going to have slower glucose clearance from your bloodstream. You're going to have more post meal blood sugar spikes, meaning your blood sugar will spike faster. You will have greater visceral fat storage in your belly. Will have more energy crashes and cravings in the morning or afternoon, at nighttime too, actually. Higher fasting glucose over time, meaning the glucose is running in your bloodstream more. Okay, so what this really means for all of you is, I say this a lot, whatever you did in your 30s and your 40s, you cannot use the same approach. It will not work. You have to use a different approach because your body now struggles with clearing out glucose, with clearing out inflammatory markers. It's responding faster to the inflammation because it can't clean up the system. I'm going to have you guys tell me something in a second here, but I'm going to tell you the symptoms of leptin resistance. And I need you to identify for me if this is you. You can put it in the comments below, okay? So you will have symptoms of leptin resistance if you struggle with constant hunger, especially after meals. You have intense food cravings, especially sugar, ladies. A lot of you said sugar, intense food cravings, especially sugar. You feel tired after eating. A lot of you eat and then you're tired. This is a big sign. Weight gain, especially around the belly and thighs, difficulty losing fat no matter what, and brain fog and lack of satiety cues, meaning you still feel hungry. Which one do you feel like you might struggle with? Constant hunger after meals, intense food cravings, fatigue after eating, weight gain around your belly or thighs, difficulty losing fat no matter what, brain fog, and lack of satiety. So this is why I speak about this, because it's so multidimensional. You have to think about, honestly, so many things that is causing these cravings in your body. So okay, so we talked about insulin, ghrelin, and leptin are responsible for cravings, okay? I'm going to talk about another thing that causes the cravings. This is not a hormone, it's what you do. Another problem a lot of women do is they skip breakfast. Who here skips breakfast? I have so many clients who do this when they first come to my program. Who skips breakfast? Me. Can you guys put skip breakfast if you do? Because I don't know what me means sometimes, and our team is trying to help you, but they don't know if you don't indicate in the comment. You have to say, I skip breakfast. Then I know. Okay, skip breakfast. So never skip. Oh, good, Joan. Never skip breakfast. That's amazing. When you skip breakfast, you delay your eating, your cortisol rises, and then ghrelin spikes, and then it's like it causes a crash, and then you binge eat at night, okay? This really dysregulates leptin as well. So this is something that's what you're doing. That's not necessarily a hormone, but it's what you're doing. And the last thing I'll say about cravings before we move to the next big class of hormone is cravings doesn't mean you're weak, okay? A lot of clients sometimes tell me, I just can't control my craving. What's wrong with me? I have a sugar addiction. And one thing I'm going to say to you is it's not about weakness or willpower. That's an old philosophy, okay? I used to think that too as a dancer in my 20s. In my 20s, Debbie on here, who I trained with at the studio, I used to be like, I can willpower this. I can control everything I eat. I can control so I can like be the best shape when I step on that dance floor. And it never works because you willpower your way through it and it's only short term. And this is why I want you guys to understand is it's not weakness, it's a biological signal. And when you can actually understand why you're having the cravings, you will be so empowered. I don't struggle with cravings. I have peace around my food all the time. I understand, okay, when this happens, this is what's happening in my body. When I want this, I understand this is what I need. It's very peaceful. And I hope that for each one of you that you're not like, I don't eat the ice cream, you know, kind of thing. Like you understand, why do you want the ice cream? Because you start to understand these hormones I'm describing to you. Okay. This is my message to you is learn more about these hormones and what causes it to better control your cravings. And if you want more help with understanding how to control your cravings, then put cravings below. Now, because today's live is complex, I have two more big hormones to talk about. There was a long time ago, I did a live on cravings, specifically. The whole live was on cravings. And that was the live where I talked about, what your cravings mean. When it does this, this is what your cravings mean, So again, that could be a possibility we send to you or we talk to you about that. So if you need more help with cravings, put cravings below. All right, next, we're gonna now dive to the second category. So we had the big category cravings, like I said. The next big category we're going to go into is cortisol. So this is the stress hormone that hijacks your belly, your sleep, and your energy. It's a hijacker. Okay, put that right around the cortisol word, circle it and go hijacker. We don't like hijackers. Okay, hijackers aren't good. They disrupt all our processes and make planes crash. Okay, so yes, cortisol is your primary stress hormone. It is released by your adrenal gland. Okay, so when does this cortisol get released? Under three circumstances, it will get released. It will get released under physical stress, like injury, intense exercise, and lack of sleep. So if you are struggling with injury, I've also coached many clients struggling with injury and they're doing everything right in their eating and things like that. But if you're going through injury, there's going to be things you're struggling with cortisol. Okay. Notice intense exercise. I also help a lot of my clients learn how to exercise properly. Okay, which is called MTP, but we will talk about that later. And lack of sleep. Okay, so physical stress is one. Two is emotional stress, which I spoke about earlier. It's when you struggle with conflict, anxiety, or grief. This releases cortisol in your system. And number three is metabolic stress. When you skip meals, you undereat, and you cause big blood sugar spikes and crashes. Three types of stressors will cause adrenal glands to oversecrete cortisol. So physical stress, emotional stress, and metabolic stress. Okay. So what does the stress response do? It will increase your belly fat around your midsection, visceral fat around your organs. And one thing I'll say about this again is cortisol receptors in your belly is the highest. So when you're stressed, it will pick up like a magnet. Okay. It will pick up fat like a magnet in your belly. And unfortunately, your internal fat around your organs is the most receptive to this, is the most dangerous. So if you are struggling with belly fat, potentially inner fat in your belly, this is dangerous. It's very close to your organs, it's very close to your hepatic portal veins, and this is where big problems will arise. Okay, so cortisol is not just something I need to control stress. It actually is like health-wise, it's very dangerous for your body. So it will increase belly fat, it breaks down muscle to create glucose. When you have high cortisol, it will be very hard to build muscle. It will take away your muscle. If you have high cortisol, it will disrupt your insulin response, we spoke about. It will interfere with sleep and it will throw off your estrogen, progesterone, and thyroid hormones. Okay. So, yes, so those are the things that I want you to keep in mind about cortisol and why it's a hijacker. Okay. Perfect. So the next thing is to talk about cortisol and what it kind of like some science things behind it. So a lot of menopausal women have very dysregulated cortisol. I was just speaking to one of my clients about this, is they have either reverse cortisol cycles or blunted cortisol curves. So meaning the way your cortisol responds throughout the day is not in its natural rhythm. Your natural rhythm is that cortisol should be the highest in the morning and then it slowly peaks off and comes down so you can have a good rest at night. But a lot of women, either they have super like low cortisol when they get up in the morning, like they're really tired, they're groggy, they need their coffee to stay awake, meaning the cortisol is not there. And then they try to eat things or sugar or different things throughout the day. And then they kind of disrupt that cortisol regulation. And then it starts to spike at night. You will know that you have cortisol dysregulation if you have trouble sleeping or you wake up in the middle of the night. How many of you have trouble sleeping? Put it below, because I just spoke to one of my clients regarding this. Have trouble sleeping or get up at night? Put it in the comments below. And so this either the blunted or reverse. Reverse means like it's super low in the morning and then goes high at night. Or blunt, it means is flat. And if you flat line on your cortisol, you are in for some big problem. It's called adrenal fatigue, adrenal shutdown. People go to medical doctors, they have to take adrenal pills because of this. It can go flat, which is the blunted curve. And this is very common in menopausal women. So you have to be super careful about this. Now, cortisol, another thing about cortisol is that cortisol suppresses thyroid. Thyroid is your butterfly shape here in your throat that regulates your metabolism. And you need to convert T4 to T3. Okay. I want you guys to listen super carefully because, again, you probably wouldn't have heard of this, and even my own angels probably will find this as fascinating and new. You might go for a test on your hormones and you will get back test results that tell you your thyroid hormones are normal. But the problem is, if you still feel tired, sluggish, something is off, and you're just like, I don't know, but my hormone test came back normal. My doctor said the hormones are normal. I want you to listen to this carefully. It may not be normal because your test usually tests for T4. It's the way they can, it's the certain test and how they can do it. It means it's before it's converted to T3. The problem with menopausal women is that they cannot properly convert T4 to T3. And this dysfunction, there's certain scientific names behind that, like functional hyperthyroidism or cellular hypothyroidism, means that your hormone test will come back normal, but yet you intuitively feel off. You feel tired. You feel like it's not, something is still wrong. That means that your hormone levels are not functioning well. And I say this a lot to my clients because I have dealt with people with chronic pain, with people who are frustrated by the medical system, who say they don't understand, like, I got tested and I was normal. And I'm like, I don't like it's a great starting point to know your hormone levels, but the hormone levels and hormone panels are not always accurate of what is truly happening in your body. I said this last time, I forget in which live. Hormone levels is not the same as hormone sensitivity, meaning how well your hormones are uptake by your body. And the same thing with this thyroid situation is that when you get tested, you may be tested as, oh, my thyroid levels are normal. But if you have trouble sleeping, if you have a belly fat, if you have trouble losing weight, if you have like this sluggish feel and all of this type of stuff, your body is not lying to you. There is actual stuff happening in your body. And this is why I speak a lot about making sure you go to someone who has more of a holistic approach at looking at your body, not just someone who uses numbers and diagnostics, because it's not always accurate. It's one point in time they took the numbers, it's one panel test that they're testing a specific type of compound. And if you understand what I just said, it's they could be testing for the wrong compound in there that is not the full picture. They can be testing T4 and not T3. And because it's easier to be able to test for T4, it's very hard to test for T3. So this is why you need to listen to your body, really focus on getting help from people who understand a deeper look at hormones not just surface level stuff that people prescribe you medication, prescribe you numbers. This is one of my biggest thing. I even talked to my dad about this, is he, he's 80, he has some, issues, and it's not always about medication, it's about lifestyle changes. It's about understanding how does your hormones need to respond better, not just the number on a piece of paper. Does this make sense? I'm hoping this does, because this is like those light bulb moments that will change your life. So again, if you want help with holistic guidance, holistic hormones, put holistic below, okay? The next thing in cortisol is, your cortisol is going to spike. I mentioned this before, the most when you do fasted cardio, you undereat, and you eat low carb diets. And coming back to low carbs, low, under eating, this is one of the biggest problems with cortisol spiking in your body. And one of my clients, Angela, she was saying to me, because now she's convinced, because her body's starting to drop weight and inches and she's eating more. She told me in the meeting the other day, she says, actually, when you told me I need to eat more, she's like, I remember once reading that under eating is just as harmful, if not more harmful, than overeating. So under eating is more harmful than overeating sometimes. Okay, so remember that for all the ladies here who are scared to eat, who undereat or undereat carbs or fats. That's not your solution. Another thing too is I want you to know that the people who eat the most calories, like I mean healthy calories, like dense calories, like Oshone, like me, or like Kat Wilson. I don't know, Kat, if you were on here. We eat up into the 1800s or 1700s. When I competed, it was over 2000 calories. We eat the most and we are the leanest. And yet, when I look at people's food logs these days and clients who come to me, they're eating at 900, 1,000, 1,100. It's ridiculously low. Okay. But then I hear from people, but if I eat more, I gain weight. It doesn't work. And I'll tell you why it doesn't work. One, you may not understand quality of food and how to deal with inflammatory markers in your food. And two, your hormones are dysregulated. So you need to address both. If you don't, if you don't know what is the quality of food or inflammation markers, you need to put inflammation markers below, because maybe you need to fix that. Then you can eat more and be okay. Two, if it's a hormone issue, then we need to regulate your hormones so you can eat more. Does that make sense? So it's, put it below. Maybe you're like, I need to learn inflammation markers more. No, or I need to balance my hormones better. Okay. The real issue is not eating more. Yeah, of course, if you eat pizza and only candy, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about eating more dense calorie food. And there's so much freedom in eating more food. You don't have to restrict. You just need to balance your hormones, and you need to understand inflammation markers. So put it below if that is what you want help with, inflammation markers and balance your hormones. The next thing is cortisol really disrupts estrogen and progesterone. It is called the progesterone steal, okay? It's a hijacker. Remember this? And if you ever study the pathways of hormones, there's a pathway where it splits the line, like steroid hormones or fats. That's why your body needs fat, by the way. It comes down a line in your body, and it's going to either go towards making cortisol, or it's going to go towards making your sex hormones like progesterone, like estrogen, and your testosterone. It will split the line. But the thing is, if cortisol is present, it basically will take all that hormone nutrition and make cortisol instead of progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. This is why it's actually called the pregnenolone. Wait, I don't know if I said that, pregnenolone steal. It's an actual scientific a process where the cortisol keeps stealing from your sex hormones. So you're too low in estrogen, you become too low in testosterone, you become too low in progesterone, and cortisol takes it all away. It's a hijacker, it steals it all. So your goal as a menopausal woman is you have to keep cortisol low. You have to keep it extremely low. You have to be very cautious of what is going to spike your cortisol, okay? So here are the symptoms of high cortisol dysregulation. I want you to listen to what I'm going to say, identify which one is you. You can put it below, but if everything I'm saying is all of them, then at the end you want to put cortisol help, okay? Because if you identify with all of them, you are under high cortisol dysregulation if you wake up groggy no matter how you sleep. You feel flat all day. Maybe you get a second wind at the end of the night, but you feel like blah in your energy all day. You rely on sugar, caffeine, or salty cravings to get you through the day. Your belly fat won't budge even when you diet and exercise. You have sleep problems. You have mood swings, anxiety, or irritability. I remember, Chiquita, you telling me you were struggling with your mood, and digestive issues or digestion doesn't work well. Okay. Which one do you struggle with? And if it's all, then I want you to put cortisol help. Okay. Now, we're going to dive into the third hormone here. So the third class. So first we dealt with cravings, and then they dealt with cortisol. Okay. And now we're going to deal with the hormonal belly. So the hormonal belly is complex, but we're going to dive into three hormones. Now, it's more complex than this. I could write an entire book just on hormonal belly. Okay. So, estrogen dominance is the first thing we're going to talk about. Your hormonal belly might be due to estrogen dominance. This is not about just too much estrogen. It's actually about not having enough progesterone to balance it. Do you remember when I talked about before that there's a cycle in your body as a regular woman in your younger years? There's estrogen, then progesterone rises, then it drops, then estrogen rises. There's a back and forth flow between estrogen and progesterone. The problem when you hit menopause is that the estrogen becomes more dominant because there's no progesterone anymore to balance this. Okay. So in perimenopause, your progesterone is the first hormone to drop. This progesterone drop leads to estrogen being unopposed. And yes, estrogen in like a good level is good for your body, but when it rises in its dominance, this is not good. When estrogen rises in its dominance, this leads to water retention, bloating, mood swings. So if you ever feel bloated or you feel watery retention, that's one of the reasons. You will store more fat around your hips and thighs and belly. And you might be tenderness in your breasts or, PMS if you're still cycling. Okay. That will tell you you have a high level of estrogen and not enough progesterone involved. Okay, this could be for people, you could be in menopause and experiencing this, but it could also be people who are still having their cycle. And I don't know if you, but I've gone through stages where I'm like, oh, why is my, your breast is more tender than the other cycle? And it will tell you a lot about what's happening in your hormone. Maybe certain months you had less progesterone in your body. Okay, so it's estrogen dominance is one of the reasons for your hormone belly. The low progesterone, number two, we'll dive more into it. So progesterone, this hormone, is a calming, anti-anxiety, sleep promoting hormone, meaning when progesterone is high, it actually helps calm your system down. It counterbalances cortisol. So when it's low, when progesterone starts to drop low, cortisol tends to rise. Okay, cortisol tends to rise and sleep becomes more disrupted, blood sugar becomes harder to regulate. And so progesterone is like a brake pedal. When you don't have progesterone, your stress and your metabolic response can't slow down. So progesterone needs to be there to slow it down. So when you drop in your progesterone and almost have none of it in menopause, you have no brake pedal. Again, you have no brake pedal to stop the stress response in your body. Okay. So again, so one, the estrogen becomes high, progesterone becomes low, and this is all contributing to the hormonal belly, right? And then the third thing, the third hormone involved is insulin resistance. So estrogen plays that protective role, like I said, with like keeping your insulin going well. When your estrogen drops off, your cells become less responsive to insulin. Okay. So we know this because I mentioned this a lot. Insulin sensitivity is connected with higher levels of estrogen, and insulin resistance is connected to lower levels of estrogen in your body. So if the insulin is not responding well, your body will produce more insulin because it's thinking, wait, how come the blood sugar is circulating in my blood and it's not going anywhere? So the body thinks something's wrong. So they keep producing more insulin because it wants to help you shuttle more sugar into your cells, but yet your cells have stopped responding to insulin. And now the problem is a lot of insulin in your system, a lot of high sugar in your system. You can see what this does to your body is now it causes a super high stress response. Your body doesn't know what's going on. And it has only a few things. Your body's only thing is a survival. It's going to go, one, put the sugar somewhere. And guess where they're going to put the sugar? They're going to put the sugar straight into your belly. And two, long enough over time, your body will shut off your insulin production. Now, that is called prediabetes and type 2 diabetes eventually. I have a lot of clients who come to me and says, oh no, like I need to get help now because my A1C levels are so high. I was told I'm potentially pre-diabetic. I said, of course, because you never dealt with all of this response before. It's only a matter of time before that will hit you. And that's because your body was over functioning for the lack of response to insulin. At the cellular gate, it couldn't pick up the sugars. So your pancreas kept pushing insulin production, insulin production, insulin production. What happens? What happens if you keep running and never stop? You'll collapse in exhaustion, right? This is what happens to your organs. This is why we run into major problems if you don't deal with it. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to say is if you don't really understand your nutrition and how to create proper insulin response, proper control, I really would encourage you to put nutrition below because that is the number one thing of controlling insulin, controlling inflammation, controlling all of that. That's really crucial for your hormone balance. If you want more help with nutrition, just put nutrition below because if at current you don't understand how to control the cortisol, how to control the insulin response, if your body is already resistant, how to get it to respond better. I've taken people from pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes and reversed them out of it. The ones who are fully type 2 diabetic, unfortunately, they may still be on low dose medication because now their pancreas is fully stopped. So that I may not be able to reverse. If you are on pre-diabetic, high A1C levels, that type of stuff, I can reverse for you. But you need guidance on nutrition. You have to understand what that means for your body. Okay. Like as a simple example, again, not 7 parts, but just like timing, how you eat, when you eat, where the combination of food is, all those stuff affect your insulin response. That's why without getting into it, if you need help with nutrition, you put nutrition below, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about visceral fat, okay? The visceral fat, why it's like really dangerous. Do you remember, and I know Margarita nodded her head when I said, what happens if sugar stays in your system and it has nowhere to go? And I said, it's going to put a smack dab right in your midsection, okay? So one of the things with visceral fat that's so dangerous is that in the visceral fat, it is highly inflammatory. So in visceral fat, it releases pro-inflammatory markers like interleukin 6 and TNF alpha. These are the things that they test for and often found at the highest level in cancer patients. Okay, so this is what's scary is that as you put more belly fat on, you actually are pushing more inflammation response, pushing more inflammatory molecules to be released into your body. And this is dangerous because it's close to your organ. The higher your inflammation markers that are not controlled, this will cause mutation. This is where cancerous cells start to grow. And that's why I say visceral fat is not just about aesthetic, it is about your health. If you have visceral fat right now, you need to control it. You need to bring it down. It is possible. It's not impossible, but you have to start from the hormone levels. Like you've heard me say this entire live, is you have to go back to, okay, what causes my insulin resistance? How do I fix my insulin response? Where is the cortisol spikes coming? You have to go back to the root of that. That's what I'm trying to help you understand. Okay. I've heard women tell me, so I just want more ab exercises so I can like reduce my belly. And I just want to say that is a myth. Okay. Doing crunches do not reduce your belly fat. It helps maybe tone up your midsection, have like a better tone, but doing crunches is like there's no such thing as spot reduce. You cannot spot reduce fat. The only way you can reduce fat is through the responses I just talked about. It's regulating your hormones, switching the hormone signals. That's how you drop belly fat, not doing more crunches. Okay. I understand. I have clients who tell me, give me more ab exercises. And I'm like, I could give you out more ab exercises, but honey, it's more about hormone regulation. Let's work on your food. Okay, so I really want you guys to understand that. Okay, so and then I want you to think about three questions because I know people, this is the 90% of you struggle with belly fat. Okay, ask yourself this. Okay, first, if I'm eating clean and working out, but I'm still gaining belly fat, what hormones might be interfering with me? What hormones might be interfering with me? Okay, so first ask yourself this, if I'm eating clean and I'm working out, but I still have or gaining belly fat, what hormones are interfering? Number two, am I supporting my liver, my sleep, and my stress response? Okay. Or am I just cutting calories harder or pushing harder? Okay. That's the second question. Am I supporting my liver, sleep, and stress response, or just cutting calories or pushing harder? Okay. And the third question is, could building muscle and improving detox pathways be more powerful than cardio? So, meaning, do you need to work more on understanding how to build muscle and understanding detoxification within your body than just doing more cardio? Okay. Those are your three questions I want you to ask yourself. Okay. So, in terms of like why you need to learn about hormones, that first question, like what hormones are interfering, is because your hormone belly is, well, hormonal, and is usually due to estrogen dominance and high cortisol and lack of insulin control. Okay. So that's why that first question. And then understanding how to support your liver, your stress, sleep responses. This is also really important. Supporting liver is something I talk about in the Bio Revive system. Those are of you who are in my Bio Revive group. You guys know that. So sometimes, again, you may think I need to eat better or exercise, but sometimes it's about proper liver support and other areas to look at. And then learning about proper ways, like I said, to build muscle and detox. So if you are, again, if you have a belly, like if you look down and you're like, I'm struggling with a belly and I need more help with belly fat, I want you to put belly fat below, again, because belly fat is a beast on its own. It's very complicated. It's not so simple. And you need to address it from those multi-dimensional angles. Okay. So put belly fat below if you feel like that is something you really need help with. Okay. Now, just to wrap up, is the hormone self-check. I released on Instagram that reel where I'm showing how you release stress in one of the stretches. And is it that one? Or no, maybe there's two posts. I think I'm confusing. And but anyways, one of them has the quiz on identifying which hormone you struggle the most with. If you want to do that hormone quiz where it identifies for you, are you the cortisol queen? Are you the blood sugar babe, which means your insulin is struggling? Or the estrogen overload, which is the third one, the estrogen dominant? That quiz gives you a quick snapshot of maybe what you struggle with. Okay. So if you want to take that quiz, you can put quiz below and we will tag you on that reel on my Instagram or the post. I forget if it's the reel or the post. And it will help you. It's going to give you a really quick snapshot and a couple pointers for you to think about how to help yourself. But I encourage you, if you're listening to this whole live, after you do the test, to come back and talk to us, because every point, like if you are mainly A, you struggle with cortisol, there's certain things that we can help you with. So, come back and tell us, oh, I'm mainly a cortisol queen, or tell us I'm mainly a blood sugar babe. Or number three, I struggle with estrogen. So just to wrap up, like I said, follow me on some of these other platforms. I actually just have it here. I'm going to put it in the message below because I already prepared this ahead of time in case it's a big blurb. In case you guys need to follow me on the Instagram, or you need to text us. So for example, if you need to text us, it comes straight to our SMS, our business SMS, and then my angels can give you the resources the fastest. You can see there's in the chat box. We have our Fierce Woman email, but I'll be honest, it's actually better to text. It's faster if you want help faster. And then the community is still open. Like I said, it's just that I'm not able to be in there or Oshone, so I'm sorry, but we can still tag you on like a Cravings Live or some of the resources in there. And then you can follow me on some of the other platforms like TikTok and YouTube, which I release my podcast on there. But where I'm most active right now will be Instagram. So please try your best to follow, check back daily there for updates. And for those of you who requested help, like you said, we will get in touch with you. Once I close out the Zoom, the chat box will be gone. So just make sure you take down the information from the chat box as soon as you can. And once I close out the Zoom, like I said, if you need help, either go to Instagram and DM me, or take that whole blurb I put there, copy it, paste it into your computer or your phone, and reach out to us in one of the ways that we can help you and send you the Cravings Live or free lives, because this is not like a Facebook Live. Like, we can't directly respond once I close out the Zoom. Okay. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It was a very intensive live. I know hormone lives are very complicated, but hopefully it gave you some insight and maybe now better what you need to deal with. Okay. Sending you all lots of love, and see you next week on Zoom. Check my Instagram for the link. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fierce and Fit Mentor podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the follow button on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If something in this episode resonated with you, please leave a review or share it with a friend who'd love it too. Your support means the world and helps us reach more amazing women like you. Until next time, stay fierce, stay fit, and let's keep building your most powerful self.